We have not talked in 20 years, and I did a TED Talk myself, a TEDx talk. It was called The Power of These Four Words. Ken Harris, shout out to Ken Harris, ETC Gymnastics.
Great coach.
Great coach. It was called The Power of These Four Words, and it was called The Four Words Where I Believe in You, and how when you actually communicate those words to other people, what that does. It unlocks something within them that says, you know what? I may not know exactly where I'm going, but this person sees potential in me, and they have lived the journey.
Yeah.
If they think, oh, there's potential in me and I need to put one foot in front of the other, and this is the training mechanisms and these are the steps and all the things that I need to do to get there, that's what true coaching is to me.
Right.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York, Middle Tennessee, it says here. Sounds riveting.
It is.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt Wilson, the Mostly Marketing host. Check his podcast out. He was nice enough to be the voice of the newly rebranded Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, formerly known as the What's Your Problem Podcast. This is a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. You can check us out and follow along, subscribe at MMTBP.com or Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com, which is kind of a mouthful. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, and with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com. And today, and also it'sYourShow.co. If you want a podcast like this, make sure you head over there. Here's the thing with today's episode. I was having a guest come back. Amanda, hello.
Nice
Thank
to see
you for
Jim.
coming back.
Thanks for having me.
It's amazing that you did come back. And by proxy, my business partner, you always come in towards the end of the day and say, hey, I'm heading out. And then all of a sudden you saw Amanda saw you, and you guys were in the gymnastics world for a number of years and were very successful with it, and you know a lot of the same people, and you get to talking about business and all the things that you guys know. And here we are, and like John, sit down, we're doing a 3-person podcast today. So very special edition of the podcast.
Correct.
Yes, you just were on.
Just a week ago, you convinced me to do a podcast.
I know.
We did it. I told you no more this year.
The reluctant social entrepreneur has returned wearing a great shirt, might I add?
Yeah. Yes. I did that on purpose. That was for you. But more importantly, it has been a wonderful reunion with a prior coworker, I have found out.
That's crazy.
We spent time together 20 years ago-ish.
Wow.
Working together. So it has been a hot minute.
That's crazy.
Crazy
it's a small, I guess it's like radio, very small world.
Yeah, the gymnastics world in, especially Middle Tennessee, but even in the region, if you've been in high level competitor mode or high level coach mode, you know all the same people. You have a lot of the same stories, a lot of the same positive and negative experiences, because it's a very consistent theme of how to coach and how to develop gymnasts across the region. And so a lot of the hardships that we faced together, even at separate locations as gymnasts, and then moving in the coaching space, a lot of the same challenges. And so obviously we share a lot more.
Well, the impetus of the podcast today was to bring Amanda back on.
Impetus?
The impetus? Is that the right word? Or the reason?
Sure, that works.
Is that where the impetus isn't the right word?
Have I been misusing so much like a word that I don't want to talk about? So, impotence?
Like impotence,
yes.
But impetus, I think, is the right word.
I believe
I'm not
you.
Sure.
Let's look it up.
Thank you. Before we get started, I got to give Ed Fox a shout out because of the special circumstances that we've come across today with the show. I'm going to forego the dad joke challenge, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to give Ed Fox a shout out for Trade Bank. If you need a service that will really help your business, if you want to get into an alternate economy that involves trading with other businesses for pennies on the dollar, whatever it costs you for your service, your product, that's what it will cost you. You can actually trade across the platform with other businesses for maybe paper supplies, other supplies, maybe telephone service systems, that kind of thing. Look into it. Trade Bank of Nashville, Mr. Ed Fox. He's always available for a coffee. I would reach out to him. You can find him on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all the different socials. You can't miss the guy. right?
Yeah, he is. I'll give a shout out as well here. I have the pleasure of meeting Ed Fox and of having had several conversations with him.
He is so memorable.
He is an incredible human being, does really good work, genuinely cares about other people. So if you're tuning in and you want to just meet a really cool person that's doing some awesome things in the world, definitely go grab coffee with Ed Fox.
I would totally agree. So there you go. On with the show. The reason why we did this is because, as you know, my business partner over here, Mr. John Woerner, is the reluctant social entrepreneur. He's got a lot of things to say. In this episode, we're going to break down what it is to be an influencer, a thought leader. It's an overused, trite, cliche term at the moment. Everybody wants to be inspirational. They want to be a speaker. They want to be an influencer, a thought leader. You see it all over LinkedIn. A lot of self-proclaimed people, people self-proclaiming or proclaiming themselves as thought leaders, influencers. And it's like, you and I were on a LinkedIn audio yesterday morning, Amanda.
It was so much fun.
It was fun. And I apologize because when you introduced me, I kind of went into this whole thing that was like, let's talk about identity and purpose and what led me up to radio. And I went off on a tangent for some reason. So it was
important. It was important to share with the audience. It's really.
Yeah, but at some point you're like, okay, just get on with it. I picked up and I'm like, hey, I kind of went off on the rails here. It was just one of those natural tangents that came up for some reason. And I apologize, but it was a really good experience because one of the things that was uncovered.
Hey, Joe, I think you're on a tangent right now.
I'm on a tangent right now.
This is going to be great.
One of the things that we uncovered is the fact that the people who I think are going to really matter and speak into the world are the people who are create their own gravitational pulls.
Agreed.
And that comes from what falls out of their mouth, not how they look, not what they say about themselves or borrowing other thoughts from other people and claiming it as their own. It's truly the passion that comes from within, not from externally, because I want to be a speaker, because I want to be a social influencer. No, those are secondary. First and foremost, and John, you said something amazing on your podcast episode was that how did you define inspiration and influence when it comes to speaking into someone's life? You remember? It was something like impacting their life. You're on the spot. This is when you speak.
See, Jim, the thing about this is I'm glad to answer questions.
Right.
But if you want me to listen to myself,
right.
I don't really spend a lot of time doing that.
You got to. Man.
I know.
You got to.
I don't memorize my speeches. And that's one of the things I will tell you. I'm going to go on a tangent already. We're already here.
Let's go.
We're here. One of the things I see a whole lot of your self-proclaimed influencers and thought leaders and business coaches, and my real thing comes down to business consulting. Like so many people who are self-proclaimed business consultants have never actually fought the battle it takes to run and own a business. They come out and they're tired of their company, so they quit. And I don't want to work for somebody else. I'm going to be a business consultant. And the challenge I've got with that whole thing is what you find consistently across those paradigms is people who have memorized 4 or 5 cliche stories. And no matter what situation they're in the middle of, they're going to tell you the exact same story they've told 37 other times. And so if you were to trigger them like this, like tell me what your thoughts are on leadership,
right?
They'll give you a totally pre-written experience. And I don't have a problem with the same message being given again and again, because a lot of times the same message requires 10, 15, 20 times being repeated. To be able to get it through, like a gymnastics coach, I can tell you to point your toes 1,000 times. You still have to hear it every single class.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works. Counterpoint, if that's all they understand is their stories,
right,
and they've sold themselves so much in the stories, there's no growth in them. And in order to be an effective leader, you have to always be growing. You can never stop growing and lead because you got to be out in front, always taking the next step. And a lot of these people sit in they waddle in their little space of what has worked for them 10 years ago, and they don't move. And that frustrates me. And I can call out those tangents because those tangents come. And instead of looking up to the left like they're creating something, they're looking off to the right like they're just trying to remember the words they like to use when they're telling the story.
They're trying to think of how they're going to respond instead of listening.
Right.
That's a drop right there, man.
I apologize. See, I already started with the tangent. I should have done that.
See what I mean?
This is why we need to have him on the show. So to give a little context, guys, so like he was mentioning as far as gymnastics is concerned, we've both been gymnasts. We've both done other sports.
Yes.
We have also coached in different capacities. I have not coached team per se, but I have coached.
But you totally could have, I'm sure.
Probably. Not in today's space, by the way.
That's fair.
But there's a lot of really incredible lessons that former athletes gain throughout their training experiences. And, to your point, leadership, having a really good quality coach, oftentimes the goal is how can I take this individual and give them and pour into them, all of the belief and the experiences and the consistency and the discipline that they need to get from point A to point B based on our own experiences. And then at some point, this is why many, many teams have multiple different types of coaches. Right? Because those coaches have the ability to bring a different, unique perspective, past experiences. But ultimately, like with my clients, what I want them to do is outgrow me.
Right.
Like get to a point where foundationally I can give you everything that I've learned.
Right.
Well, let's first define what coach is. Because one of the things the reason why you came on today was to talk about authentic influence. And that's your thing that you're going to run with in 2024 that you told me about. Yeah. Let's define that. Let's define what a coach is. Let's define what an influencer is. Yeah. What is a thought leader?
Easy. I mean,
it's really complicated.
I'll make the point though.
I know I'm easy.
We have
very tongue-in-cheek in this moment.
Coaches, super coaches, whatever you want to call them, that give momentary shots in the arm of motivation and inspiration. Coaching to me is someone coming alongside you every single day and is there with you, watching what you're doing, and that's what it is, in my opinion. Am I wrong?
So I think we all have different unique experiences with, in quotations, coaching. So coaching is a word, right? And we all have different unique experiences with that. I've had the opportunity to collaborate in sports as well in business with really good quality coaches as well as not so good quality coaches, and oftentimes those coaches. So coaching for me is, like you said, Jim, walking hand in hand.
Right.
It's not, I'm going to tell you how to do something, then you do it. It's, I'm going to give you the flexibility and freedom to actually do it yourself, but I'm going to walk hand in hand and support you along your journey. And I'm going to get you from point A to where you want to be in point B. Right. And to me, that's what a good true coach is understanding quality leadership. There's a lot of terms out there, heart-centered leadership, others first, focus leadership,
servant leadership, eaters eat last, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But like true coaching is hand in hand, like you said, walking and helping elevate. That's another word, right? Elevate the lives of other people based on what they're trying to accomplish.
That's right.
And I would take a step in addition to.
Yeah.
First off, can you do this?
Yeah.
Because I can't see your face. No, like turn this part down.
Yeah. Bend that last knuckle.
Yeah, and then
bend
turn that up.
There you go. Nice.
You know what? I hope we got all that on camera. That was really elegant. I don't
want to break it.
It was really now I can see you, because before I just saw like a big bar across your head, and it wasn't nearly as nice to talk to somebody with a bar. I mean, never mind.
Mic technique from John Woerner.
Thank you. I do what I can. See, this is coaching. I just coached her. No, so to the point, and actually, this is a great segue. Look at this. The thing we have to add to the coaching experience is not just walking hand in hand with them, and that you have to see where they're going first.
Yeah.
You have to see the potential in them that they might not even see in themselves. One of the big things about effective coaching is saying, hey, what I see in you is the best version of yourself. And my job is not to make you as better than somebody else. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. If they can score higher scores than you or dunk more baskets than you, what matters is that you have potential to be this person.
Right.
You have potential to be world class at this, but not everything. But this is where you're unique. A great coach sees the potential and then hand in hand slow walks that person from completely, I don't see that in myself, to okay, I can begin to believe you because we've taken 3 steps together and I begin to feel this way, to, oh man, I know where I want to be world class. And I want to be world class in bars or beam and gymnastics, or in financial management or cash flow if it's business, whatever we want to call it. We want to be the very best version of ourselves. And a coach brings that out of you, and then they can see the process, the path from where you start, and they can see the final product, and they get you there. And that's the thing that I think most coaches forget. We used the word earlier. You used the word earlier.
Here we go.
You said motivation or inspiration almost interchangeably.
Yeah.
Those are completely different words,
right,
with completely different meanings. Mm-hmm. See, a motivator is somebody who externally helps you to pursue something external to yourself. Somebody who motivates you is somebody who says, hey, there's ice cream on that seat over there. Go get it. And you're like, I want ice cream. I'm going to go get that ice cream. The thing about it.
Do you have ice cream?
I really wish I had ice cream. In fact, Ed Fox, if you know any ice cream companies are willing to trade with
us.
us.
Coffee shops too.
Yeah, we want to trade for
everybody.
ice cream. But back to the point I'm making. Yeah. Motivation is a short-term gain. The ice cream will melt if I'm not there fast enough. It's something that I might enjoy for a moment, but it's going to go away. Inspiration is never an external aspect. It's always an internal aspect. It's something that you help somebody inside of themselves produce a desire that feeds itself. And so if we're going to be effective coaches, we can't simply motivate with discipline or rewards. We have to inspire them to understand that the actual goal here is that they become the best version of themselves possible, and they have to feed that internal process of going and getting it on a daily and regular basis. And the coach feeds the inspiration. But the inspiration only lives inside of the individual you're coaching. And so we have to say effective coaches inspire people.
Right.
Ineffective coaches just motivate.
So we have not, so if you're tuning in, and we have not talked in 20 years.
We've not identified ourselves.
Yeah, we have not talked in 20 years. And I did a TED Talk myself, a TEDx talk. It was called The Power of These 4 Words. Ken Harris, shout out to Ken Harris, ETC Gymnastics.
Great coach.
Great coach. It was called The Power of These 4 Words, and it was called the 4 words were I believe in you, and how when you actually communicate those words to other people, what that does. It unlocks something within them that says, you know what? I may not know exactly where I'm going, but this person sees potential in me, and they have lived the journey. Yeah. If they think, oh, there's potential in me and I need to put one foot in front of the other, and this is the training mechanisms and these are the steps and all the things that I need to do to get there, that's what true coaching is to me.
Right.
Hey, Middle Tennessee electricians, handy women and men, and just those of you needing better commercial LED lighting solutions. Yeah, I know, there's so many of you. I have to tell you, there's another option than just the big orange and blue box stores now. Try j2lighting.com. At j2lighting.com, we have the latest technology in all types of commercial LED lighting, from UFO high bays, drawers, area lights, and shoeboxes, right on down to a slimline wall pack that doesn't look like a fist coming off the wall like most other wall packs do. You get what I'm saying, right? Many of our fixtures are wattage and color temperature selectable, which means you have more control over the brightness and appearance in your dark spaces. Check us out at j2lighting.com for a great local source for your commercial LED lighting ideas, even full color light show dreams. Yeah, totally. That's the letter J and number 2 lighting.com. j2lighting.com.
I had the opportunity to work with really good quality coaches. You had the opportunity to work with really good quality coaches. You know, I started gymnastics at 6. And so having that instilled in me at such a young age, I've been able to carry that into my life and understand from a business perspective what is good quality coaching and what is not so good quality coaching. But a lot of people, I recognize a lot of people haven't had that opportunity.
Right. Yeah. And to add to that point, when we talk about the impact of a good coach in a sport on your life, when I talk about gymnastics and people ask me, well, what do you think about this gym or that gym, or watch this coach and tell me they know I'm an expert in that field. I've proven time and again. And the thing I typically look at when I'm looking at that is does the coach consider this a whole life development, or is it just a sport development? You see, if I'm telling someone to swing the bat faster, and all I care about is how fast they swing their bat or how fast they throw a ball, then I'm missing the fact that you're influencing a person whose entire life will reflect how you influence them today. My method of motivating people, I can tell you the exact gymnastics coach in my life who taught me how to motivate in this way. And I can tell you the conversations he had with me before and after competitions that had nothing to do with how I performed. Had everything to do with how I interpreted my performance in myself, because he cared about my whole life. And I am now 40 years old. This was when I was 8 to 10 years old. So literally over 30 years ago, I can give you word for word the conversations that this person invested in me to change my perspective on who I was. And so I look at coaches in gymnastics and I'm like, hey, that gymnastics coach is committed to the well-being of that person for their life. And they're going to learn discipline and work ethic and focus and the ability to overcome fears and overcome traumas and heal well, because a great coach is influencing them in great ways. Or I can look at the exact same thing and say, hey, that coach only cares about their performance, and they're going to always feel able to perform, always criticized, always unable to accomplish the task that the coach has set before them. And it's going to impact their entire life, because everything that they confront as a challenge is going to resonate with, if I don't perform, I'm not good. And so I will tell people, don't go under that coach or do under that coach, because I see how they engage the gymnast, not as a gymnastics coach. In fact, gymnastics is the smallest part of that equation. The biggest part is how's it going to influence their life long term. That's the big part we have to look at in business the same way. We can business coach to results all day long, but you never actually enhance the human. And that means as soon as you walk away, there's no growth.
So you mentioned,
This is kind of like dropping bombs. I'm kind of stealing from Brad Lee right now. He drops bombs. I do the CSI sting. You know the show CSI?
But you just interrupted her, and she has so many great things to add.
Sorry. I was gonna. You asked me earlier about authentic influence, right? This is being authentic.
What did I tell you?
Like the reality.
This is exactly like, see? Holy crap! It's like, just pull the string and let him go.
I'm sorry.
Well, because
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. This is beautiful, because being truly authentic means that you know who you are. You lead with passion. You lead with curiosity. And guys, this man cares. That is one of the biggest things that I see missing in leadership. Like true coaching, true leadership is like, you may care about the financial value exchange, but do you truly care, authentically care about who this person is as a human being? And can you develop them based on your knowledge, based on your skill sets? And so with authentic leadership, like I have to know my lane. I have to know my guardrails. Like I was in a conversation earlier today with an individual, and he was asking me about, can you help me with this? And I'm like, no.
You don't know it.
I don't know it.
Stop pretending that you do.
Stop pretending that you do. I don't know these things. And so now that I've, put forth the energy and the effort, seen some successes, seen some failures in business, like I know who I can help serve very clearly. And I also have enough compassion and enough care to where I'm like, I can't help that person. But I've built a big enough community to where I'm
you know somebody who can.
I know somebody that can, and I know somebody that will do it from an authentic perspective. And will truly care. Because, it's really interesting what people can actually do when they feel safe, when they feel loved, when they feel like they can show up as their best selves. And like the thing about, and I'm going to bring back gymnastics because...
Of course, why not?
Sorry, Jim.
Sorry, Jim. You're good.
But with gymnastics, like mistakes are expected.
Yeah.
You fail over and over and over again, and it's painstaking failure. Sometimes you can overcome a challenge and you're like, okay, well, I can get to this skill, or I can do X, Y, and Z. Sometimes you just can't get there without an outside perspective, right? So everything is driven internally from gymnastics, right? But coaching is, how can we pour belief into people? How can we pour compassion and love? How can we give space to individuals to actually fail regularly? And how can we get them to a point where they're able to overcome this massive challenge? And that, to me, like when I'm thinking about business coaching, there's so many principles in there that I know a lot of people haven't been exposed to, but I've been blessed to be exposed to those things. And now I'm like, okay, so we have a unique perspective because it's ingrained in the DNA of how to coach people through failure and allow them to pick themselves up and actually keep things moving, but be compassionate and loving in the process.
In gymnastics terms, when you're an early gymnast, a low level, and you're competing for the first time, and this totally translates well to the business world, your biggest focus is not falling. A low-level gymnast, they just don't want to fall. They don't want to have the 5/10 deduction, not realizing that they're going to get that same deduction from like 100,000 other things in the routine because they're so worried about not falling, they're forgetting to perform well. There's a whole message in that.
Yep.
But then as you grow in your knowledge of the sport and you get to the upper elite levels, then your only goal is just to hit once. You got to hit the skill in a competition. So you might fall 4 out of 5 competitions, but man, that competition, you hit your skill, you are totally excited. Man, I hit it. I hit my routine. I hit the whole thing. The falls that occurred along the way are not your centerpiece. It became about getting to the goal of the expectations that you had been hoping for and training for your entire life. You're doing elite level work. Better than 99% of gymnasts will ever touch. And your goal is just to get there. And in business, that translates to the people who are not afraid to fail and take risks and take chances. But boy, they're so focused on the goal of getting to this position or this product set or this quality of follow through
or behavior or customer engagement.
And their whole effort as a mature businessman is to get to that point and just get their business there. And the failures along the way are not the things that stop them, because it's just part of the process. In fact, you go to a level 10 competition in the mid-state nowadays, it's different than it was back before. There's been a lot of improvements recently in terms of expectations and how it's communicated. But I'll tell you, you go to a level 10 competition, which is the one level for Olympic level for those who don't know. A lot of them laugh through the entire competition. They're throwing the vault, they've landed on their head, they get up, they just start laughing it off. They fall 3 times, they just laugh. Why? Because for them, they're there with their friends, with people they've invested their whole life together with, and they look at it and they say, you know what, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to do my very best. I'm not here to show anything new to anybody, except I just want to be the best version of myself I can be. And if I don't get it, I can either get angry and cry, or I can just throw it off my shoulder and move forward. And that's what they do. And I love watching. It's so much fun to watch as a coach.
So I can dive into something totally different. You ready for me to kind of take a little bit of a diversion here?
Sure.
So you were talking about like level 10 gymnastics. So yes. I was a high level competitive gymnast, and I always remember being on beams. So for those of you that are listening, that are like, oh, I've watched gymnastics, a balance beam, like that was my favorite. So if you're tuning in, like I was a nut.
That is weird.
I loved
beam is nobody's favorite.
I was the beamer. I loved the balance beam. But one of the most critical things that I learned that I think a lot of business leaders can take from this experience as well is when you're on a balance beam, it's 4 inches wide. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got to stay laser focused for a lot of different reasons, mainly to not get hurt.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of noise around you. So gymnastics meets can be really loud, meaning there's music going on. There's, you know, sometimes people in the audiences that are a little bit crazy. There's a lot of outside noise. So I think a lot about this gym, about this specific topic that we're talking about. There's a lot of noise on social media. There's a lot of things going on in the ecosystem right now. Good, bad, and different, right? Some people are using it for really positive influence. Some people are using it to become influencers. And I think about that experience, about how laser focused you have to be as a high-level competitive athlete so that you don't get hurt, you don't get injured, you don't fall. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that we can take there about in our business, there's so much noise. But if we get laser focused, we have the right coaching, we have the right environment, we can shut all of that down and achieve better results than we could possibly ever dream of with trying to encompass all of this other stuff going on.
Talk about the surface level attributes of some of the people that we see out there.
Yeah.
Okay, John, you and I, we examined some of the pieces that they put out, promos, reels and stuff like that. Some of the guys are dressed very sharply. Some of the guys are ripped. They've got, muscles and veins popping out. Apparently the bald thing is very big if you're a bald male.
Well, see, none of that's going to work, Jim. You talked about creating your own gravitational pull.
Right.
I am sized best to create my own gravitational pull.
This is where I'm going. Okay. If you see somebody that shows up because you really don't care. I've known you now going on 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And the first meeting that you and I had was a big deal where we had to meet with a school. You got in front of a CFO. You don't give an F or a D about how you dress.
What are those letters mean, Jim?
You're just kind of like, you show up, I'm here, it is what it is. But when you open your mouth, even when I first met you, you sat at the table in Starbucks, and I was like, who is this guy? He's sitting at my table. And it turns out we were supposed to meet you and get you involved and stuff like that. But the minute you opened your mouth, it was like, oh, okay. Okay, now you got my attention. And that's the thing I think a lot of people need to take special attention to. How are these people on the surface level, first impression wise, coming off? If they're trying to use flashy videos, the zoom effects, because everybody's trying to get that equity of that 3-second attention grabbing notion. Okay. What falls out of your mouth is what matters, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because, if you can dress and look the part, and, there are people that do, they hit all those, they check all those boxes, and the things that fall out of their mouth really do matter. Like, I think Brad Lee's one of those guys. He's got the stripes, man, and his opinions are his opinions, and it works for him and everything. He's got a look. He kind of looks like David Beckham, right? I don't know. Somebody compared it. Somebody said that he looked like that. I'm like, I could see that. But he's got that. There's a surface level first impression engagement that happens with a lot of these guys. But then you further investigate. Some of them do it for shock value. Okay, they say things and do things for controversy. I don't think there's no long lasting aspect. There's no legacy there. There is, but it's not deep.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
So I'll jump into here. I'm not going to talk about individuals or all of that stuff, but I will see. Like,
oh, please do.
I will not.
Start with Jim.
I will not. Well, because here's what I do find value in. I find value in people that are truly authentic to themselves. I may not agree with them,
right,
but I find people that are living their true authentic lives, who they are as a human being, what they stand for, what their values are. I may not approve or agree of what they say, but I appreciate that. And so when I think about influencing all of these things, there's the influencer, which is solely just trying to trade attention for likes.
They're trying to be an influencer.
And this is in general. This is like, all sorts of like fashion or, it's a shock value thing. What I've been exposed to and what I find a lot of value in is true thought leadership. And so that's a word that's also getting thrown out a lot as well.
Right.
But having the ability to sit down with somebody and they live their authentic life, right? Like if I started wearing sparkly shoes, like I was told as a corporate professional, sparkles is not part of how I should portray my personal appearance.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. This is what I find comfortable. I was a gymnast. Right. Sparkles is part of it. It's part of it.
Right. The TEDx on your shirt's even sparkly.
The TED is sparkly here. Yeah. But that's where I'm going at is like, who are you as a true, authentic human being? What are your experiences? What is your knowledge based off of? And how are you going to use those key nuggets to actually help serve?
Right.
And help other people. The reality is like we live in a digital world, right? So social media, LinkedIn specifically, I do a lot with LinkedIn. This podcasting, speaking, there's an opportunity there to generate opportunities for your business.
Right.
So as a business owner, having digital influence is valuable. Right?
Yeah, I know you're pointing at me right now.
I'm looking at you because
you're seeing the same thing I see.
Because I'm seeing the same thing that I see, and that's why I'm going to talk a little bit about TEDx Old Hickory here.
Sure,
that's why you should.
This is why I like the TEDx platform, and I'm no representative of TED. I'm the organizer of TEDx Old Hickory, and we had our first event August of last year. I worked with 16 speakers, and the beautiful thing is everybody has ideas.
Right.
And if you stay truly authentic to yourself, your knowledge, and what you want to deliver to the world via your voice, there's really powerful things that can happen from that.
Right.
And so oftentimes when we think about professional speakers, right, I do a lot of speaking at this point, we think about people that are incredibly loud. Mm-hmm. Or like, I'm going to get up on stage and, Brendan Burchard is a good example of this. He's an incredible speaker and he jumps up and down on stage. But if I tried to compare myself against doing that, I'm like, that's not me.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Right.
But if I show up and I teach, that is me.
Yeah.
So how am I going to build influence is based on who I am, what my voice is, what ideas I have, and not just comparing against all of the other noise.
Right.
And more or less through conversation. So like my speakers, every single one of their talks will get published. We have 14 out right now. One of them was on the editor's pick, which was amazing.
Nice.
The other two will get released also through kind of that scenario. And what was so beautiful about this is I worked with them for 5 months, and it was pulling out their true authentic stories or their true authentic ideas. Mm-hmm. Because some of them felt initially like they needed to be a certain way or deliver a certain way. And what was
based on what they saw on other platforms from TEDx.
Based on what they've seen.
Right.
We all do this, right? It's like, oh, well, this is what I can see and this is what, I can understand. So this is what I think I need to do. But what's so beautiful is when they actually leaned into who they are and how they wanted to deliver things. Man, it was incredible.
Their true selves came out.
Good, bad, and different,
but
right?
You're skipping over the important part of this conversation. they had somebody speaking into their space that could see who their true self was even better than they could. We call that effective coaching. We're back to that original story of you saw something in them, and based on your history of knowing great coaches and observing great coaches and seeing what they care about, you said, hey, who you are is not who you can be. Let's take you step by step by step. Don't reinvent yourself as somebody else. Be the best version of yourself. It's not competing against anybody else. You're just trying to be the best version of you can be. You'll always be world class at something. Yeah. As long as you know what that thing is and really pursue it.
That's a good point.
To Jim's earlier point, we talk about these influencers. I will say there's a danger in the perspective of everybody has value. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate what you're saying, because everybody as an individual human does, and they have great value. As an influencer, they don't. Because I've watched these influencers speak messages that have been terrible business or culture or innovation hurts. Yeah. It's like seeing a bad gymnastics coach and you see it come and you're like, I will never put my kid in that program because I see they're going after all the wrong things, because it's going to hurt my kid lifelong. Yeah. And so we have to be cautious that just because they are living themselves out, it doesn't mean that they need to be an influencer as themselves, because there's a sense in which they could influence other people to be like them. Yeah. And that can be very damaging. So what irritates me, and Jim will tell you this, I don't listen to many of his podcasts of all these business people he listens to, because I can't handle some of the things they say. I'm like, if they pursue that to the end extreme of what that would do to their business, they're going to destroy lives. And that's an issue.
So here's where I'm coming from with this. I believe that everybody has influence in some way, shape, or form. Fair. You may not be an influencer, right? We may not be communicating things from a digital perspective, right? You need really good quality people to hone in on messaging and how are you going to deliver and all of that stuff. But everybody has influence. So I feel like that word is oftentimes misused. Yeah. Because, so for example, my daughter is 13 and she's got massive influence. Mm-hmm. Student council president. She is very much a leader. Of course she has influence with her peers. Right. That's true influence, right? Mm-hmm. And a good example of this is one of our speakers is a first grade school teacher, and she had never spoken before, right? But she had something so powerful to say.
Well, to be fair, she does speak every day in front of a class, but not in front of adults.
And honestly, kids are much scarier than adults. Adults at times. But doing public speaking, it can be very scary if you're not used to being on a stage. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of fears around this and had to work towards it. But the way that she communicated her knowledge, her experience, her ideas was true to her. Right. Yeah. It's what she cared about. She had influence. Is she sharing all of this on social media? Probably not. Right. But she has influence. So that's the piece, is like, as business leaders, as business owners, as parents, as coaches, whoever we are, right? At whatever we're doing at any given time, we have influence as human beings, and we've got to be very cautious about how we use that influence. And that's incredibly powerful.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is some people need to use discretion in their influence style and speak to the things that they are great at, and I think a lot of people are just going for clicks and likes,
and be okay with the things that are not okay with.
Right. And to your point, you earlier made the comment that you intentionally told somebody earlier that you don't really fit their avenue. I respect you for that. Yeah. Because I will listen to you more when I know that you have focus on what you're great at. What I don't respect is some of the people I listen to online who feel that they're going to be the expert in any field that they come up against.
Well, here's the thing is that, we talk about, and this came up yesterday, and I kind of went off on a tear, is I can't remember what the question was, but they said.
So hold on. We were doing a LinkedIn audio room, which is called Backstage Speakers Lounge. I'm running it once a week, one day a week. For a year, I'm committed to that.
Every Thursday,
because I want to bring people together that have interest in speaking. Why? Because I get a lot of questions about TEDx Old Hickory, and I just want to make sure that I have a platform for people to actually understand true influence and how do you use your voice to go about doing that. So for anybody that's tuning in, that's what we're talking about.
So you had.
I love how she plugs things.
She resets it.
She is so good at plugging things. Like, it's just a natural flow, but she's
very good.
Like, that is really. I mean, I'm giving you a thumbs up.
I'll take that.
That is a thumbs up. I'm very critical of 90% of people out there. You're doing a great job of plugging things.
She's actually, that is what is known in talk radio as resetting the topic. So even though people are listening continuously throughout the episode on a podcast. In radio, if people were to kind of come in at a certain time, which is what they do because it's live, you'd reset the topic, but that's a good practice to get into. There was a question that prompted my response yesterday of, if you start to speak on stuff that you don't know about, or start putting out content or posts about things that, okay, you know, I'll be the guy who alludes to certain people. Person of interest, for example. Okay, there's a guy out there that puts out courses who he himself is not a person of interest. Does that mean he could speak with authority on teaching people how to be a person of interest?
So I'm not diving down this rabbit hole.
I know.
But what I'm saying is,
my point is, people's BS meters are so highly attuned.
Yeah,
you're gonna uncover you're gonna be found out. They're gonna know. You can't fake it.
So I think we're at a place right now where people, you know, authentic was the number one word for last year. A lot of people using that in a lot of different capacities. I believe it was the number one. So
what does it mean?
Authentic. Okay. but where I'm going at with this is, like, people are really looking for solutions.
Right.
People are really looking for problems to be solved.
Right.
People want to be cared for. People want to feel like the people that they're doing business with really, truly are going to help them.
Right.
And we as leaders...
And not try and sell them something.
And not try to sell them something.
Right.
That's part of it. There has to be a mutual value exchange, right?
Right.
There has to be a mutual value exchange. But people are looking for good quality leaders that are truly going to help, and they're going to serve, and they're going to get them from point A to point B, but allow them to make mistakes, allow them to learn, allow them to build, allow them to grow. And that's the piece that I think that people are really hungry for and it's very simple, right? We need leaders that truly care.
Right.
We need people that are truly compassionate about who we are as human beings. You know, if you show up authentic and I don't agree with you, okay, cool.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
right.
You're living your truth. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with you, but I can respect you.
Right.
Because you are who you are.
Well, there's a great thing in a shared goal too, because you can come at it from different angles. I mean, Jim and I could have we're business partners. We could have a fight over something.
Right.
And walk away shaking hands, not because the fight was the problem, but because we both knew that the end goal for our dispute is the better success of the whole of what we're engaged in. We're responsible. We've got 16 employees. Their well-being matters a ton to both of us. We're just trying to fight for their well-being. And so our argument is just the process of getting the best version of ourselves out there. So if you and I were to talk and we're like, hey, let's be involved and let's help communicate a message out in the field, we might have a different way of going about that message, but the truth of the matter is we have the exact same end goal, which is the best version of our messages, influencing the most people in the best possible way for their livelihood and their longevity. And so the issue is never the conflict. Conflict is only a problem when you have two opposite goals. Self-centered conflict always results in destruction.
Interesting.
But others-centered conflict or growth-centered conflict always leads to a place of, hey, if we do it well, we have rules about our conflict. But if it's others-centered about the best version of ourselves we can be, then it really is just water under the bridge.
So I heard this phrase, or I made it up. I don't know where it came from.
We'll give it to you. It is your phrase now.
So I've really been digging into this. Clarity is kindness. Mm-hmm. So clarity is kindness, meaning...
I like that phrase. I'm gonna write it down.
Well, please. I don't know where it came from.
That's funny.
It
Put it in your email signature.
Yeah, I mean, it might have came from me. It might have came from somebody else. I don't know where it originally came from. But, you know, clarity is kindness. So as leaders, you know, our goal is to grow our businesses, serve our employees, make sure that we have resources available, help our clients.
Right.
We have to have clarity.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
Yeah.
Clarity is kindness. So oftentimes I see, and I've made this mistake before, where I don't show up authentically as myself, meaning like I feel like something's off, but I keep moving forward. I'm like, oh gosh, like, and I think we've all been in these situations where it's like gut wrenching and you're like, oh, I'm just going to keep moving forward. That's not living authentically with integrity, right? Like you're continuously doing these things and then something comes up. You're not clear. Mm-hmm. You're not showing kindness because there was no clarity around the situation. So in 2024, I'm leading with that, is like, clarity is kindness.
Right.
It's my job as a leader to ensure that there's clarity here with myself, with my community. So through my digital perspective, because I do have personal branded website and LinkedIn and all of these things.
You crush it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, LinkedIn, you're crushing it. Yeah. And that's a tough medium to crush.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that's what the kids are saying.
But here's the thing. I've built that community organically. Slay. My daughter, if she hears this, she's going to be like, absolutely not,
she's
Mom.
She's going to be cringing.
So she's like, this is cringe.
This is so sus.
That is not cool anymore either. That's not a good thing.
She won't think you're bussing?
I don't even know what that means.
You know, I chuckled earlier because I was thinking about John getting up on stage and speaking. Have you done it before? You've spoken? Have you speaked?
Like on stage?
Yeah.
A couple of times.
Okay.
I don't have any fear of it.
I can't imagine you would.
Yes.
But it's funny if all of a sudden this starts picking up and you're going to show up how you show up.
100% of the time.
It'll be shorts. It could be flip-flops. You'll be wearing a T-shirt. It could be a hoodie. And it's like, this is like getting back to the story I was telling before about him. He gets in front of a CFO of a major local school. And he's dressed like kind of probably even worse than...
College, be specific.
College, yes.
Right.
And you were dressed, I believe, even worse than you're dressed now.
Who knows?
Right.
Sure, I don't pay attention.
And it's like the person that's like, oh, this better be good. You know what I mean? That's what you lead with. You're like, okay, I've shown up to talk to all you guys dressed like this. I know what you're thinking. What I have to say better be good. And you need to lead with that every single time.
You see, I don't... I will tell you, when we talk about business consulting and bringing a consultant in specifically to your company, a lot of us think everybody wants to be cared for. You made this comment. Everybody wants to know they're making good decisions, have somebody outside of their little box, their little bottle, who can see the label and understand what's going on, offer them guidance and clarity, and they're moving forward. Clarity is kindness. And so they're looking for that person. But when they think of a business consultant, they look at the movie Office Space, which is where they bring in these consultants and basically turn the company over to that person. That person comes in and just shakes the whole world up. And then somehow, maybe or maybe not, they have a better company at the end of it. In Office Space, they did not have a better company. See, effective consulting nowadays is not about turning over your business to somebody else to fix. It's about bringing in that right coach who can take a look at the whole of your company with transparency. It has to go both ways. You have to be transparent about your company. You can't show them all the pretty pictures, but none of the trash, because they can't help you then. But they see everything, and then they communicate to you, hey, together we can get here. And we do one step, but it's always the business owner who wants to be the one taking the steps in today's world. Where maybe in a prior world, it was always them not knowing how to take the steps. So they back off and let somebody else take the steps on their behalf. And so it's much more important for a hand-in-hand approach to business development and leadership versus a standoff, let me come in and fix your company, and then I'll leave, and then you'll have a better company. Because we all have to understand why, not just the what.
Right.
And the why comes with a step-by-step coaching style approach to business development, not a here's what's wrong, fix it. And so it's really a whole lot like this gymnastics term again. Right. I'm not coaching to the skills. Because anybody can come in and tell you, hey, your numbers are off here, your turnover is too high, your revenue to profit margins, they're not working out. Your cost of goods is way higher than it should be. You need to either raise your prices or lower your cost of goods. I can come in and look at all the metrics all day long, but I've done nothing to help you as a person. And the thing about it, the reason I invest in companies, the reason I do business consulting with the few that I do, is because I want their employees to come to work loving their jobs, because it's a healthy and a safe space for them to work in. They get to go home and they get to love their families better, because they aren't coming home so exhausted from inadequate leadership or inadequate work resources or inadequate clarity about their job. Clarity is kindness. They end up broken, and then the family is the one who hurts from the brokenness that the job is providing. For me, all of my consulting efforts come back to, hey, a great leader in your business, a great business owner, people who have been properly coached and developed in the best versions of themselves that they can be, they're going to produce a workspace in which people want to be there. They wake up in the morning excited to go to work. They work a job that they understand the criteria of their job, the expectations of their job, with clarity about their compensation, with clarity about their role and responsibilities, with clarity. They come in, they do their work. They come home and they're not exhausted and stressed and angry and hurting their family and their children and creating a jaded future for their family because they weren't well managed in the business.
Right.
It's all about effective coaching.
Well, and on the flip side here, so as a whatever you want to term, service provider, coach, consultant, there's a lot of different terms that oftentimes get thrown out there. Some things mean things different.
Let's use the word expert.
Thought leader.
Right.
So here's the thing: as that individual, I have to be hyper aware and very, very clear on how I can serve people. your skill set and your skill set, Jim, are very different than my skill sets.
Right.
And I have to be very clear, clarity is kindness, on how I go about.
How many times
hashtag, I'm going to have
today?
like a shirt. I'm going to have a shirt. But I have to be very clear to my connections, my community, digital presence,
Right.
one-on-one conversations on the things that I can and cannot do well.
Right.
And that's very challenging, especially for startup businesses. I'm a startup. I had to start a company to help support the financial flow of TEDx Old Hickory. And it's very, very easy for individuals to say, you know what, I could probably do some of that stuff.
Right.
And to go down that rabbit hole. But that's the rabbit hole I'm not going down.
Right.
Is like, I know very clearly on how I can serve people and how I can help people, and then how to lead authentically with my best self.
Right.
It may be that I can only take this person or this company or this group of people to a certain level, but then I need to call you and I need to call Jim, and then you guys step in. So
Right.
I think we haven't really dug into this, but I think it's a really important topic when it comes down to this rabbit hole that we're going down, is strategic partnerships and relationships.
Right.
So oftentimes, especially larger organizations will find consulting companies that are very large. And I think right now there's a lot of turnover in organizations. People are leaving, they're going into a more creative leadership space. They're starting their consulting companies. I think that some of these organizations have such a great opportunity to pull in really great quality talent, like smaller consulting companies, to that are very hyper specialized, but are also really good quality people, and do really great work for their organizations.
Right.
And so I think that there's such a cool opportunity if you find the right person, the right company, but then also as the right person or company, if you are, having a strategic partnership network is
Right.
so powerful. And that's something that, I've taught on this. I've done really a great job of building out my community of really good quality people and really good quality companies all over the place, right? But I know, like, I may not be able to serve this client, but I know wholeheartedly that I need to make a connection here.
Right.
And that if you're tuning in and you're a solopreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you're a small business owner, like, I would encourage a little bit of focus this year on building out those relationships and that strategic focus of like partnerships.
Right.
Because I think we can do a lot of really cool work together.
And in some way, we're always doing it.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know people, John. You know how to bring people in. I know people for sure. Strategic partners, Ed Fox.
Yeah.
Well,
and it also is not just bringing them in, but understanding like, living authentically is like, if my gut is telling me that this person is doing something that I'm not in alignment with, that is not a great person to make connections
Right.
to.
Right.
And that's something
we know nothing about that.
But here's the reality is oftentimes people will set up strategic partnership networks and may or may not feel like that person's in alignment, but stay that path.
Yeah.
And I think that there is, with people that are leading, once again, it's a hard terms, heart-centered leadership, authentic leadership, whatever you want to call it, right? But people that really have compassion and care and positive intent for their clients, I think there's such a unique opportunity for people that organizations can get some really cool talent right now.
There's a void out there for sure.
There's a void for sure.
And it's a silent, I dare I say, a silent majority. They're just afraid to speak up,
What do you mean by that?
Because, some of the people like for example, on LinkedIn that we talked about yesterday morning on your LinkedIn audio, big personalities, big followings will put out information like, to John's point, that's, it signals the wrong thing. And I had to say, you know what? Yeah, this is not exactly, I'm not sure if this is going to go the way you thought it did, because what you're saying is kind of making you look like a jerk. Not that I say it that way. I say, well, have you thought about it this way? And it's like, well, okay, let's define something else now. Does that make me a troll or a hater? You know what I mean? If you push back on a concept that somebody, the original poster on LinkedIn that's got, essentially what I would call bootlickers in the comment section. That, oh, great post. What a great, hey, let me tag your name so I get recognized.
We're going to call them sparkly shoe lickers here.
That's right.
Please don't get close to me.
I pushed back recently on one of those types of posts and explained myself And the way the original poster responded was kind of like surface level, like, really? Okay, that's it. You know, and I would push one more time. I said, okay, let's try it. Think about it from this angle. And over the time since then, the amount of people that have liked my comment, I've never had that kind of engagement before. So that leads me to believe that there are people like, I'm saying what other people are thinking. You know what I'm saying?
So
there's a void there.
Here's the thing that is very taboo. My approach is very different.
Right.
I don't care about who likes and comments. I do care about engagement, meaning like if somebody says something, I want to make sure that I'm engaged with them because I care. Like I don't use bots. I've never used inorganic methods. I've always tried to build my community organically. And so what that means is like, to your point, like I show up authentic. I've had many different versions. I've learned, I've grown, I've built, but like I show up as I am.
Right.
And the more I build and the more I grow, the more knowledge I have, the more experience I get, I continue to refine and share that information.
Right.
Now, it may not resonate with you, Jim. You may have a question and you may drop a comment and it may be something that I'm like, what the heck? Where is he going at with this?
Right.
But here's
Which
the
happens,
thing.
you know, sometimes you just don't know what I'm thinking.
But where I'm going at with this is I know, Jim, that you have positive intent,
right?
That you care, that you're passionate about what we're talking about. You may want to stir up a little, maybe not necessarily controversy, but you may be like trying to figure out, hey, what's really going on here?
No, and it's like, you know, that latter part of it is not my intent. It's truly going, what?
Because I
know
that.
You know,
because I
you,
know.
But, you know,
but that's the thing is if we can identify in our communities and if we show up authentically as leaders,
right.
You may say something, I may say something. John, I don't know you well, like after 20 years, but like you may say something, and I'm going to be like, I'm going to ask you a question. So oftentimes when we are in quotations influencers and we're throwing out information for likes or comments or shares, it's not about true thought leadership. It's about how can I generate opportunities based on this stuff.
Fashion show.
And we can call it whatever we want to call it. Yeah. But the reality is like LinkedIn is a great opportunity. So if you're tuning in, you're a business leader, business owner, entrepreneur, if you're looking to grow your career, if you're looking to get a new job opportunity, it's a professional network. It's a great leverage point. It's a great way to...
it's a resource.
It's a resource. Right. It's a great resource to use. And it's not about necessarily likes and comments. It's about people having the ability to see your digital presence and see, oh, do I like, am I in alignment with this person?
Right. But it's even the people that are quiet, like John, who have a lot of good things to say that the world needs to hear, and it's so frustrating that they don't. You know, and it's, you know, you've got hardly any time on your hands and stuff like that. And I get that. I've actually challenged him recently. I said, dude, just start writing a thought a week, put it on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn, let it sit out there, see what he does, you know?
And I'm not defending my absence of social media presence right. In this conversation, especially sitting across from somebody who seems to be a true expert in that field.
Right.
I would embarrass myself with my lack of knowledge or thought in the process. I haven't given it much thought. That's right. The honest answer.
But I think that's a tremendously appealing part of you.
Right.
Yes.
You know? Right. And we'll call it what it is. So we go to Amazon, we're going to buy a product.
Right.
What's the very first thing you look at on Amazon if you're going to buy a product?
The search bar.
The reviews.
The reviews. Right. 100% of the time.
I'm way before the reviews, I guess.
How many stars and what are the top 10 comments? You don't just look at the number of stars. You actually go into the top 10 comments and you get a feel for the product set.
Do you look at the 1-star comments too?
Absolutely. If it's a product that I'm nervous about, I always drop to the 1-star comments. If it's one I'm like
immediately?
Yeah, always.
But you don't look at like a handful of the 5-star comments first?
I go first to negative. If it's something I'm anxious about, like it's a $500 item that probably won't work.
Right.
I'm going to go to the 1 stars and look for all the reasons not to buy it.
Right.
If it's something that's $15, I'm like, yeah, it's a cool toothbrush. I'll go to the 5 stars and say, how cool is a toothbrush?
Right.
You know, and that's the thing that we do also with the likes and the comments in the posts that we read. You know, do likes matter? Do comments matter? Absolutely. Engagement matters more than anything because it's not going to show up in my feed if there's no engagement.
Right.
But then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at what is that initial reaction, that initial response to that. Before I begin to even spend the time it takes to really unpack the idea or the thought, I'm going to do a little investigation around what I'm seeing. And so the top 10 comments, how many are getting, like which 3 comments created the biggest firestorm? Like in the NFL right now, it's huge things happen in the NFL. Yeah. I'm a football lover. All these coaches getting fired. Nick Saban retiring. Big news. When there's all these announcements, I'll go down to the comment section and I'll look for whichever comment has like 183 responses.
Right.
And I'm like, uh-oh.
That hit a nerve.
This hit a nerve with people. Yeah. Let me go understand the nerve that it hit to see if it gets me involved.
Interesting.
And if it doesn't, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because the things that are triggering out of whatever presentation doesn't actually engage me at all. And so for me, I'm very selective about what content I consume because I'm not a content generator. Right. I think maybe content generators are a little more open-minded about what they consume because they're trying to get a feel for the whole market of content generation and honing their skill set. But for me, I'm just going for the 2 or 3 things that might interest me. And otherwise, I'm not interested. I am the peripheral to the content generators, where I think you probably have a much better idea of what's happening in the content because this is your livelihood. Me, I don't want anything to do with it, but it seems to be I have to. So
I approach things very differently. So like my response may be very different than what you're probably thinking here, but like, and this is good, bad, and different. This is what I have found is like authentic to me. Like I don't have a scheduling strategy. Like I don't have on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to schedule X, Y, and Z. And sometimes I do if that feels like, okay, for this month, I'm going to I feel like this is what I want to dive into. But like, it's usually not like that. It's, I had this really interesting thought this morning.
Let me expand upon it.
And let me share it with other people so that they may find value in it. It has nothing to do, like, I don't care if anybody likes it. Obviously, like if people see it, that brings more visibility to the thought. Right. And we may spark a conversation here, but like, I don't have a month or 2 or 3 month built out strategy because oftentimes when I'm putting content out there, it's like, I had this really cool thought today. I want to like dive into this a little bit. And so,
would you say that you're the norm or the exception to the norm?
I have no idea. Why? Because I'm leading with like what I feel like.
I get that. I resonate
should be doing it. Yeah.
I'll have like all of a sudden, you get your I get my best thoughts when I'm in the shower, right?
Okay.
Yeah, they just come.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely right, not.
This
okay, Jim.
Marinate on that image for a minute.
No, thank you.
And
I apologize for my partner here.
So. It just they just come to me, and and I'm going, oh my gosh, and it's like it ignites a fire in you, and it just comes pouring out later.
Right.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot. Recently, I'll see something that'll just, it's almost like the Peter Griffin on Family Guy. You know what really grinds my gears? That's the kind of stuff that makes me go, oh my gosh, somebody pertaining, I'm going to teach you to be a LinkedIn expert. I'm like, well, then you better have engagement on your damn posts, dude. Yeah. And it's like, I did one on signaling the other day. It just came out of me.
I'm gonna be Jim.
It wasn't planned. It wasn't scheduled. It wasn't anything.
Well, let me be Jim for a second because I have to use the deep voice.
I don't know what you're saying.
I know.
That's right.
I can't do that.
Yes, you can.
Excellent.
I can't do that.
You got to put like breath into your voice. Like
you have to breathe.
This is going to be one of your clips.
It's not the chin. It's the open. It's the open vocal.
I don't
cords.
even want to go there.
Speaking from the diaphragm.
But being beyond that, so let me play Jim for a second. So let's imagine no one in this room that there's somebody who everybody's really insisting gets involved with putting their ideas out there. And no matter what they do, they seem to never get away from a bug in their ear, constantly telling them they need to be more engaged in social media and putting things out there. There's no one like that here. But just to say that was true.
Yeah.
He's talking about me.
I know. And me.
It's okay. I'm going to encourage you as well.
What would you recommend?
Yeah.
Let's say that person doesn't think anything of value of their thoughts except, that's an interesting thought. I like my thought. I'm going to ponder my thought for 6 weeks. I don't think I'm an expert in my thought because it's a new thought for me.
Yeah.
But it's probably a new thought for 10,000 people. How do you evaluate when you're putting out, I had a cool thought this morning, I want to write it down. How do you evaluate what thoughts have value beyond just your own personal introspection that maybe your thought will help spur? Like, how do you evaluate that?
Yeah. So am I asking questions? So if I'm not a thought leader in this specific topic, I'm curious.
Right.
So it's like, I'm going to maybe ask a question here.
Right.
Maybe start some dialogue and some conversation. If I know what the heck I'm talking about, then more than likely I'm going to put some like type of teaching or some type of like thought leadership content out there. Like, I will say, I did set up a weekly audio room. I used to have a weekly video podcast that I would do. It was called Sports to Suits. So just FYI. And I was interviewing athletes that were transitioning from sport to business. Like, I had a background in this, but I didn't have a formal.
I was thinking like sport to lawsuit. I didn't realize sport to like three button suits.
No, but like why I started that was for reasons that people don't even really probably even recognize. Like, I had a lot of fear for cameras. We've talked about this before. I wanted to get more comfortable on video camera because I knew that like I'm going to show up authentically. I'm going to do the right thing. So like, even though I was interviewing incredible people and doing that through that platform, it was actually for me to overcome that challenge.
Right.
And so it was a different perspective. So with the things that I post about, oftentimes, like, I want to see if that's delivering value.
How do you anticipate? How do you predict the value of what you're trying to deliver?
It may not be valuable at all.
Right.
That's the point here is like, if I feel like, oh, well, I could teach on this, or I could comment on this, or maybe this could deliver value to somebody, then I'll make something about it. If I don't think that it's going to deliver any value, then I won't post it at all. Right. But the goal is like, how can I continue to deliver more and more and more and more value? And then how can I use the platform as a way to learn?
Right.
So learning from other people that I find value, that I know are showing up authentically as themselves.
So I think like if you were to define your consultancy methods and really bake it down,
right,
I think your title of it would be like healthy culture-centric consulting for business owners. That seems to be the gist, right? Human-fed.
It's so hard to put these things to words at times, right? Like, especially creative.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying is that, I think to answer your question is identifying what your lane is, and does your lane have a lot of other people in it? Does it resonate with a lot of other people? And if you speak to those types of things, hey, I mean, because I'll just, hey, should I mention the fact that thoughts come to me while I'm showering? What do you think of that? That's the kind of thing you're talking about.
No, I don't want to know about that. The answer is no to that.
Right. We have 2-on-1 here.
So that's why I like LinkedIn. So people ask me, like, why do you, like, I have an Instagram and a Facebook.
Right.
The Instagram and the Facebook is a closed network. Why? Because I got all sorts of creepy type of things. And I was like, I'm not going to go down that path anymore. LinkedIn is a professional network.
Right.
So I knew what I'm going to produce is not me dancing on a TikTok, because that's not authentically me and how I'm going to show up.
Right.
I find a lot of value in learning and leadership and all sorts of other things from a professional perspective.
Do you do a run of handspring full and then start talking? It's like I
don't.
That would be kind of cool.
The trigger point, like they see this girl like on LinkedIn, like doing a full and like walking towards them, like, let me tell you about running your business more effectively. Just like I ran this tumbling test.
That's actually not a bad idea.
That's a terrible idea.
So
I don't think it's a bad.
But here, okay, so
because that's a cool aspect of it that people may not be aware of.
So I am an adult woman now, so that the full is not an option.
Right.
We'll just go there. But I have considered maybe doing a cartwheel here or there.
Right.
And that's kind of cool. But then it's almost like, how do I feel about that? Right. Like, I don't know. I'm not quite there yet.
Go ahead.
So oftentimes, like when we're speaking or when we're, putting content out there, there's this concept of clear versus cloudy. Do I feel clear on being in this lane, or am I cloudy in this lane? Right now, me doing a cartwheel across stage to like, hey, I'm going to come speak and I'm going to do a cartwheel. I'm not clear on that. So if I were to do it right this minute, I wouldn't be living authentically or with integrity with how I am at my core. Can I do it? Yes. Does it mean I should do it? Yes or no?
I think it'll set you apart.
No,
if I see you cartwheeling out to the mic, that'd be kind of cool.
But here's the thing: people take you as seriously as you take yourself, and that can be a win or a loss depending upon what you're trying to portray. Right. If you're out there trying to generate energy and excitement, cartwheels across the stage is a great way to do that. If you're out there trying to cause them to think differently about their reality, cartwheels across the stage might not be the best approach to the first impression of what you're trying to generate in the interactions. You asked a question about how I would describe myself as a consultant. The problem, and this is going to be true for her as well, is which background.
Right.
What is the avenue through which this company approached me for support? Because I could be a great sales consultant. I am an incredible salesman, an incredible sales coach and developer of salesmen, and I can show number after number after number that proves that factor, but I don't love sales. But I could absolutely speak with great clarity to what effective sales looks like. It could be cultural. But really the thing that I would hang my hat on if I were to say who I am as a businessman, somebody once shot me a picture. It was just a little photo that they said, this reminds me of you. And it was a picture of an unfinished maze. So just like a 3D maze with the walls and everything. And all it was is one red line straight through the middle of it. Mm-hmm. I didn't follow all the paths that most people followed. I just created my own path. The fastest way from the start to the finish was right down the middle, not following the rules. And so for me, my style of consulting is uncomplicating a complicated design.
That's what I called you in the beginning.
Business is not complicated. And so my skill set is, as you said, decomplicating business. And so if I were to go after it could be a Fortune 5 company. Business is always business is always business. It doesn't matter how big you are. We have certain fundamentals that if you just stay focused on those fundamentals, you can generate success in your company. Let me help you discover what those are. Part of that is culture.
Right.
Part of that is how you sell effectively and create great client relationships. All of it is when you don't mystify success in business. When you create 17 steps to your success in cash flow, you've already lost the battle. And I've seen those books. I'm like, you don't even get it. The person's going to be teaching a whole maze of approaches to get to the same result, which is this is fundamentals of good business. That's my skill set that I would hang my hat on. But how would I go to somebody and say, your business is too complicated, let me fix that for you? That's where I lose insight. So I don't sell that side of myself as a business consultant. While that is my skill, I would sell myself as a culture person.
I think that would be similar to, the thought leader, influencer label being ordained on somebody.
Right. Versus creative.
Instead of you actually proclaiming it for yourself.
Right. Well, and so here's my skill set. And this is the thing about authenticity is you understand how you operate, who you are, where you're coming from, your belief systems.
Right.
I can take complexity and create uniform and structure to it.
Right.
Like very clearly.
Right.
And that plays in a lot of different lanes and a lot of different areas. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But ultimately, what is my background? What is my skill set? How can I productize this? And here's the hard part: productize. Is how do I communicate the value in a way that people can understand?
Right.
And that's the hard part, is because there's a lot of buzzwords. There's this bridge between the value that you can deliver and what the consumer can understand the value that you deliver is.
Right.
And that's where clarity is kindness. Because if you do, my background is sales as well. If you do enough discovery work with individual humans, you're always going to deliver value because you're going to unpack stuff, right? So in a discovery call, it's about, what are you looking to achieve? How do you go about doing this? What's your current process? Who are you currently surrounded with within your business?
Right.
What are things that you just can't overcome?
Right.
And can I help solve this problem for you?
Right.
And me as being the resource, if I can't, then okay, I have got a group of people that can help support you and let me connect you to them.
Right.
And so it's being very clear.
Right.
And that's the hard part, especially with skill sets that are creative. And, we go out and we ideate and we do all these crazy things. It's how do you take that and how do you productize it so that people can actually consume that? And I'm challenged with this. I think as solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, when we're not selling a widget,
right,
as a service provider, we are challenged with this consistently.
Right.
And it's, how can you use your digital influence? How can you use some of these platforms or these programs to attract the right people versus having to hunt every single time?
Right.
And that's the piece that, we talk about social media, but I have found that in social media has some gaps, and I want to talk about those because as business leaders, I think this is very important. Having a personal branded website has done wonders for me. And this is why social media casts a wide net. Okay. And I kind of specialize in LinkedIn, not necessarily Instagram and Facebook. But what you don't capture is really important information. Email addresses, phone numbers, all of these things. So if you have an operational system that you can actually get some of that information in and deliver value in return,
that's when you can actually start developing relationships.
Right.
So once again, if you're a business leader and you're using social media as a strategy, that's okay because it's casting a wide net. But to actually build
targeted.
a business,
right.
That's not the best way to go about it. And so that's a mistake that I have made, that I've put now operational systems around, is how can I attract the right people, bring them in board into my community, deliver value, and then ultimately over time potentially have a mutually valuable business relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, we talk about buzzwords, and I think one of the biggest complaints I've heard in this room consistently is buzzwords are unclear. Mm-hmm. We use thought leadership and servant leadership and all these like 17 kinds of leadership. You know what it is? It's leadership. But we put these words on it to help specify and like say, hey, my version of leadership sits over here. And that might be different than his version of leadership. That's how I am setting myself apart from him or her or them, because ultimately it comes down to the concept of what is it that I want to identify. But the result is everybody stops reading the first word. They don't even understand the intent of what a thought leader might be versus a servant leader versus a corporate leader versus whatever word we want to use. And so we lose all the value. But then she makes up words like productize. And I love that word because that word is so clean and clear, and it's not.
You know exactly what it is.
I immediately caught on to it. I've never heard that word in my life. Now, you might not have made it up, but I'm going to give it to you today. I did not make it up. It's a great term. Ideate. The word ideate is a term that I first read in Now Discover Your Strengths, a book written about 20 years ago. And you took a test to figure out what your specific 5 or 6 things that made up your DNA. And I am an ideator. That is one of my things. And I love that term because it's not somebody who is just creative for the sake of creativity, somebody who says, hey, here's a new way of thinking about an old problem. I have an idea, but we're using it as part of a solution set that we're able to construct. And so these terms mean so much more because they're logical to the person who hears them. And so I think part of our challenge, especially consulting space, is you walk into a room and like, well, we've been told we need to spend a whole lot of time on business development.
Synergy.
Okay.
I love that word.
Help me understand what that word means.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what it means. That's what somebody told me.
We have a business and needs development.
Right.
Yeah. Get to it.
And we have to work on the terminology because the terminology is angering.
It's ambiguous at best.
Because it has lost in the effort for clarity. It is totally clouded. Yeah. I don't like you. You keep adding all these terms to my world.
So this is what I do. I'm going to push you to think, though.
I do like you. FYI, for all who are listening currently, I think she's pretty awesome. I'm going to be mean to her because I'm mean to the people I like. That didn't work out well either, did it? Never mind.
Hey, it's okay.
I know this for a fact.
I know how I show up. So your opinion is valuable to me, but I am what I am. But this is all really good stuff, right? Because as business leaders, all of us is like, what's your problem, right? That's the former, we all have problems that we're trying to solve. So I would encourage organizations to tap into the mind of some of the resources that are available.
Right.
Start thinking through what are some different strategies or some unique perspectives that we can bring into this organization.
Yeah. And I'm going to do a plug. You ready for a plug?
I mean, it depends on what it is, but sure.
Doesn't even
JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com?
No. For those who are afraid of bringing somebody into your circle of trust, you don't even know what an outside influencer is going to be able to do in your space. One of the great things about presentation, TEDx as an example, those seminars where you bring in 8 or 10 great thought leaders, is you get a chance to get a feel for what is really going on in the minds of the people out in front of the space, out in front of the concepts, the people who've studied with great depth and intensity how to most effectively engage your issues. And you might walk out of there saying, man, I had never even thought of that concept before. So now I need to stop and rethink my business. Do I know anybody? Are there any connections in my space? Can I reach out to the TEDx crew and say, hey, I really wish I had someone to come help my business who was really an expert in this because you said this presenter said that. I don't even know where to start. So don't worry about bringing somebody in just yet. But get out there and begin to discover what your gaps in expectation and understanding are because you're going to have them, even if you can't see them. Expose yourself to bigger thinkers, not maybe than your intelligence, but in areas that you might not have thought of, and then work to begin to solidify and close those gaps in your experience to make yourself the best business leader and culture developer for your people that you can be.
Yeah, a shameless plug here.
Was that a good plug? Was that a good plug? Did I help?
But
okay.
I need one too.
Oh, she needs a plug.
I need a plug too. But here's the thing is like, I don't know if this is going to work or not going to work, but like part of a great way to engage an outside resource is a workshop. Like bring somebody in for a day that can pour into your organization, a select group of people within your organization. See if they're a good fit.
Right.
Can this person really drive value?
Right.
So it's a very easy way to engage an outside perspective. Then there may be a deeper opportunity available
for a relationship.
It's
called a first date.
A first date.
So here we go. TEDx is a dating app.
No, that is a no. My business is not TEDx. So my business is Create and Innovate Solutions. TEDx Old Hickory was a project outside of that. But like the reality is like tap into some of these resources.
Right.
There's some really cool people out there doing some cool stuff. If you need to know some, call me. Like I've got some really neat connections in these spaces. But there's, I think as, businesses, ultimately, like this is the woo-woo side. Like we are stronger together, yes. Like woo-woo, this is the woo-woo side.
Woo-woo girls.
Like we're stronger together, but like we have to get really creative and innovative on how we go about solving our business problems. And I see a great opportunity for people to develop digital influence, including yourself, my friend. So maybe I can help you on this, but like leveraging a digital perspective to generate inbound opportunity.
Right.
And you've got a bunch of incredible people in your organization. If you don't, you should reconsider that. But if you have incredible people in your organization that really truly care and want to share, like if you have policies around, like it's a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
To do really amazing things.
Yeah, I mean, I have an incredible organization. I have a business partner who talks about his showering habits too much.
That's right.
But outside of
is there a policy that like
no, nor will there ever be.
Is there a policy to stop that?
We need to create a policy that only work thought has to happen while at work.
Yeah.
Nothing happens at home.
I'm start getting him on video next. You watch.
No, but I can't even respond to this moment. To your point, I absolutely support the concept of a peripheral mindset as you're beginning to engage the intimacy that real coaching requires. I mean, that's the thing about it is coaching is a level of trust and respect. And I give you an example. So back to gymnastics, we're going to circle all the way back around.
Full circle. Wrapping it up.
Yeah. I'm teaching a girl or a boy or anybody. But in this specific scenario, this conversation I had earlier this week with a girl I was coaching. She's trying to learn a skill called a back tuck. It's where you pick your feet up off the ground, you pull them to your chest, and you flip backwards over your head, and then you land on your feet again. It's kind of crazy. And so she was upset with herself. And I said, why are you upset with yourself? Because I'm so scared of it. I was like, fear is not the problem here. Let's take a look at anybody who's not standing right in front of you right now, and you're to go out there and say, okay, I want you to pick up your feet. I want you to flip backwards over your head and land on your feet again. What are they going to tell you? They're going to say, absolutely not. Why not? Because I'll die. Correct. The fear is a great thing because it keeps us from putting ourselves in compromising situations where, in this scenario, you'll die. But what's different about you than all of these people? Well, you've had someone like me who has invested in you. You've learned to trust me with these other skills we've developed together, your round-offs and your handsprings. And as we've worked through other skills and other events, we built a trusting relationship. Now you have to know that I'm an expert in back tucks. And I've taught you all the things you need to know to take that step. You're not like them. So your fear is normal. Fear is fine. You're going to have to trust me to help you to choose to push through that fear and try the skill anyways. And in this specific example, she did a great job of actually throwing it, trusting that I knew because I'd built a long-term trusting relationship. And in business, we have those same fears of letting outside people come in and influence how we run our company because it's natural and it's healthy. That if you own it and you're the one head down and it's your livelihood and your family's livelihood and your employees' livelihood, not to let other things step in. And any smart person will be afraid of letting outside influences directly control the success of the company until that outside influence begins to build that trusting, ongoing, committed relationship to your success. And you say, okay, I trust you. So I'm going to take this step forward and go for it.
So there's a really great example of the physical coaching. So I want to bring physical coaching into this because in gymnastics, it's very physical. Right. Meaning when you start out these skills, there's a progression to it. And so when you're coaching a back tuck, oftentimes you'll put, a hand behind the back and then you'll make sure that you can flip the legs over and then you can, grab onto the child when they land so that they're not, falling on their face, all these things. And then over time, the progression is, okay, well, we're going to go from, helping stabilize the back and flip the legs over to we're just going to stabilize the back.
Right.
The hand is just going to go on the back.
Right.
And then the coach is like, okay, I think that you're ready. We're just going to maybe put a slight hand touching the back, but we're not going to fully push the child over.
Right.
And then it gets to a point where the coach just puts the hand near the back.
Right.
Right. And then the coach and the gymnast are like, okay, we're both ready for this thing.
Yep.
And then the gymnast does the skill and oftentimes lands the skill because both the gymnast and the coach understand that the progression has gone through its pathways,
right,
and that it is safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it is safe for this individual to do it.
She's gotten used to the feel of it too.
She's gotten used to the feel of it. She's comfortable that the coach
and the whole
knows.
The whole time the coach is tweaking shapes, little things constantly, never stops. Even when they're fully involved, their job is not just to make sure the safety of the child. Their job is to tweak all the little pieces that go into the process and the actions to help it become the safe skill that it needs to be.
Right.
It isn't that we did 10 with the hands on, now I do 10 with the hands off. That never ends up in success. It's always 10 with the hands on. And the 10 I'm doing the hands on, my job is not just to hold the hands there. It's also to make sure that all of the positions and the shapes are understood and habits and practiced. And so next time they end up in the situation, they already know by habit exactly how they should shape their bodies.
And here's the key. Every single child is different.
Everyone.
That's right.
So that's the piece that is it's really a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. I used to love coaching. I'm not coaching right now. But the beautiful thing is that relationship.
A loss to all gymnasts.
I don't know. The relationship and having that trust factor mutually.
Right.
That it's okay, are you ready? And it's the communication.
Yep.
Sometimes we don't feel ready, even though the coach says that, yes, you're ready. And then there's that discussion of will you just stand there?
Right.
Will you just be here to support me so that I know? But every child's different. So if you have a program, and this is going to go back to your initial point, Jim, if you have a program that says, John is going to stand here and he's going to, start with progression 1 and he's going to do it 10 times and then move to progression 2 and do 5 times and then move to, if we implement that type of methodology into our business, we can't expect beautiful results from every single one of the people that are part of it.
Because some take 15 times or 20 times to get to that next stage.
Or 100.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The goal is the same.
Right.
It's just how you go about doing there. And if you have that relationship, you can get farther than a back tuck.
Right. Right.
So, Amanda, are you fielding all the applications for the next TEDx event?
Okay, so please do not reach out to me directly.
No. I mean, I know there's an application process, but do you see all the applications and everything?
Yes. So we have, I'll tout TEDx Old Hickory a little bit.
Yeah.
Last year was incredible.
I tried to. I got in trouble for it, so I'm not going to anymore.
It's okay. Last year was absolutely incredible. We were making incredible impacts. There's another word. We're making incredible advances in our community.
Evolutions.
Incredible thought leadership.
Ideas. Oh my gosh, it's killing me.
impacts.
So we really crushed this event. It was incredible. Everybody that was involved really felt oh my gosh, this is good. So next year we're excited to have it again. We don't have the date, but it will be kind of probably Q3-ish. The theme is launch. So if you're tuning in and you're an astronaut, I want an astronaut to be on this. But the theme is anything that has to do with launching things, launching businesses, launching movements. The application is live, so you can go to www.tedxoldhickory.com and submit the application under the speakers tab. We have a committee that is incredible that evaluates all of these. We have a process, so if you reach out directly to me, that is not the best way to get through the process.
Does it help if you know people that are good? Can you give them a nod? Like, you know.
Well, so we actually have on our application, did somebody refer you?
Okay.
And who was it? Right. So
what was the TEDx thing I asked you in your episode? What did you want to talk about?
Oh, that was a fly of the mill, run of the mill concept.
I know.
Yeah, well, it's the idea that every business leader needs to have something outside of themselves helping them make business decisions. If it's only their internal truth, they're always going to be led astray by their emotions and their experiences. They always have to have something outside of it. If it's a book that they identify with, if it's a person, a leader, John Maxwell, Jeffrey Gitomer, Zig Ziglar, who they base their bases. If it's the Bible or a spiritual text where you're coming at it and you're saying, hey, where does truth exist that isn't only in my emotion set? Because when business leaders try to run only inside of themselves, they fall to every one of their weaknesses. There has to be something bigger than them that they all can look to and say, these are the standards under which we run our organization. And he asked me, I was like, this is what I would teach on, but I can't say that's what I would teach on. You just gave me 3 seconds to think of an answer.
That totally put you in the spotlight.
I know.
But here's what I would tell you is that, the beautiful thing about true thought leadership is oftentimes the first thing that comes to mind is what we need to talk on anyway. So when I talk to TEDx speakers and people that are interested in getting involved, like the first question is usually like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And they're like, this is it. And I'm like, there you go.
We might be able to find you an astronaut. We just we got an interesting project we're working on, so can't really.
So I would love to have an astronaut. Meaning, like when you launch a rocket, that is so freaking cool. Like, what is an idea or some type of thought leadership that you've pulled from that?
Well, the other aspect of this, I think you can tie in is your bonus time angle.
Oh yes. I was like, am I getting a bonus? Sweet.
Do I get one too?
Sure.
Let's talk.
Something to merit,
Jim's handing out his bonuses. No, Jim's referring to my heart attack and how I should have been dead. And now I'm living in that bonus time at the end of a soccer game where you don't really know how long it's going to be, but you're gonna really try hard to win the game in that last few minutes.
But think about all you've launched.
I have launched a lot in the bonus time. Yeah, no, trust me. He's still trying to get me to speak at your convention, and I'm sure I'm gonna.
Your convention.
I'm gonna have I'm gonna have like an application on my desk fully filled out tomorrow for me to sign. I guarantee you that's what's on his mind here.
Is that so wrong? Come on.
Well, you're in luck because it is a form online, so you're good. But I would just say, like, if you're tuning in and you're like, I've got a really cool story. Here's the thing, guys, like people need to hear your stories.
Right.
Like we all can learn, we all can build, we all can grow with people that are like sharing their true stories.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the beautiful thing that I love.
That's the authentic influence. Bringing it is.
Because,
full circle.
Because I can listen to my daughter and I can learn from her the stories that she's experiencing with her peers. Yeah. That's influence to me.
I got to get on another podcast in 20 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. So, guys, thank you for being on. Thank you for coming out. John, thanks for the
heads up. I got all of 38 seconds of warning.
I know.
So
it was one of those spontaneous type of beautiful situations. Let's just run with it. So that's what we did. And I think it turned out to be a great episode. So thank the both of you. Guys, you're listening. Please follow along. Like, subscribe, share, rate, review at MMTBP.com. This is the mostly Middle Tennessee business podcast. Yes?
I was just laughing.
I know. I'm still trying to ramp it down. The mostly Middle Tennessee. Yeah, because it's kind of quirky. So please follow along, share. Let us know if you think if there's somebody in mind that you would be a good fit for us. There's a link in the actual website that you can make it actually apply to be a guest. So please do so. MMTBP.com. Guys, thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you.